All right. Market just closing here. Should be up and running on both streams. Let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for February 23rd, 2021. Q's down just 0.3 there, and SPY actually now recovered back to positive on the day. Now, if you traded with me yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon, then you know that the bias yesterday morning and in going into the end of the day was bearish on the Qs and SPY. Okay, because we had taken out our line in the sand, we'd gotten follow through, and we'd gotten the next entry there, the sell setup to initiate the bearish bias. I thought the one on the SPY actually looked even better. This sell setup right here, that's the one that we talked about also yesterday. Into the close, the acceleration down, and then the volume. Okay, so going into tomorrow, all right, going to be neutral on the market because we have such a big bar. I'm expecting a bit of a more neutral day, such a big reversal, such a big range today. Okay, so not going to be bearish going into tomorrow. Okay, so neutral. We'll see what kind of follow through we get. Market Q's and SPY trying to do a buy setup here. I can go over this, just kind of why these lines were here, and that last one that I just erased was this kind of acceleration down. And the reason that we were talking about that is because is that normally in this situation we're getting lower lows and lower highs, right? Just like as we were when we came into the market this morning or ended the day or even yesterday morning, right? Is that you're getting a downtrend, so you should be bearish, okay? But what we have this morning is we got the acceleration. Notice the volume picked up, all right, and where it got extended. So because it's a bit of a climactic bottom, that's going to set the bottom, and that's kind of what we're anticipating for tomorrow, that tomorrow is a bit of a rest day after such a big move down and a big move up. Okay? All right, so we'll wait and see. No longer bearish here on the Qs and SPY. And you can see on the daily here, pretty impressive reversal here on the Qs and the SPY. Okay, from today's bar. All right, let's go over the plays from today, starting with the VBLT. Now, yesterday, if you were with me in the morning, I said that, the market's gapping down, the all-important market, and if the market were gapping if it were multiple days down and then gapping down into support, I'd have more confidence in trying to play something long. Okay, and then today, that's basically what we got. Now, another day down, and then into support. So I'd be more interested in looking for something with relative strength. Now, we're going to talk about the VBLT. Even though this was the favorite in the morning, we didn't end up getting a play on it. Now, I'll show you why we didn't get a play on it. And it's not because it didn't set up. It's because I intentionally chose not to. And I'll show you why. So I was watching it this morning. Because I like the gap, we're clearing most of the sell-off from the previous day there. Okay, the previous day you can see was mostly a sell-off, and then we got this gap up, clearing most of that bar. So that's bullish, and you got some shorts that are maybe caught on the wrong side, some longs that got out that would like to get back in. Okay, so I'm watching it, and then right, notice how kind of like sloppy this got here, right? Big kind of shakeout there, and then right back up. And then as it was looking like it wanted to transition higher, again, big shakeout there. So that kind of told me that personality-wise, the behavior of this, it's more probably just the behavior of the people or programs involved that were definitely making this pretty wild. And if something's really wild like that, it's hard to manage, right? And so as we were preparing the play for this, which was right in here. This was the buy setup. I said over 274, stop underneath 260. So 15, 16 cent stop. You can play this, but from what I've seen and just how jumpy it is, I just am not going to play it. It's just too wild. And so while there definitely was some to be had here, right? I know that if I had played this, let's say I played that, I would have taken some here. And then the back half, the best maybe would have been killed around break even here as it was kind of losing the 2-minute 20 MA here. But there's not even really much of a pivot there, right? It kind of just falls apart from there. Is there a possibility to take this whole thing up here? Yes, but I don't think that's not what I would be looking for as the final target. Especially the weekly here, we're clearing resistance. We're into an area that we haven't been in quite a long time. So I know that I wouldn't have taken the whole thing up there. What would the fills have been? So, that's something to be on the lookout for, especially if you see kind of the big tails, kind of the sloppiness, initially. But then if you see it continue to happen, it's probably just the way that it trades. Okay. So on this one, it would have worked to some extent. I'm not too bothered by it really, for not having played it, because I know it's just really sloppy. And the stuff that we saw in the morning that was sloppy, was only a precursor of how I was going to trade. So that's something that you can always kind of keep an eye out for. Just, what is the personality of the stock itself? How does it trade? How does it behave? Okay. Because I still think that's a pretty good gap. Also really like the REAL gap. Okay. Gapping under a big red bar there into some support was the big issue. Now on these last two, what I was looking for was the next entry on these. Okay. Was a way to play these. Now, but because the market ended up rallying basically all the rest of the day after the first 30 minutes, these never triggered. So I also had a call on the DRRX to play underneath this base here, treating this little pop up here as like an attempt to do a shakeout, and then if we break back underneath there, short. Okay, again, I like this gap a lot. Another decent gap down, island reversal here. So on something like this gap, I expect it to stay pretty weak. This one as well, pretty good gap, expect it to stay weak. But on these two, unlike the VBLT, they just never triggered. Okay, VBLT triggered, but then that was intentional. That, we're probably not going to be able to manage this thing. It's probably going to be wild. It was even wilder than I thought it would be. So that was a no play. So, a lot going on in the Qs and SPY, but, not very active as far as taking a lot of plays here. Okay. So we'll see. We are starting to wind down and move out of earnings season. And definitely notice kind of the last week or so, less calls from me, less play calls from me. And it's not that there weren't setups. There was ones that decided were too wild. There was a setup on the real and the DRX, neither of which triggered. So, and that's always the case. It's just that generally maybe there are like 3 or 4 calls, and then maybe 1 or 2 don't trigger. But when there's only a couple calls and a couple don't trigger, that can make it leave me with kind of less plays there. So, we'll be on the lookout for that. If the market for some reason, gaps down or starts to get volatile or something like that, that may kind of help us get a little bit more activity, more things to trade. But we'll just have to wait and see. For now, I'm expecting tomorrow to be kind of pretty muted. But that may, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be. But we've had a pretty big bounce here. The weekly on the Qs and the SPY both kind of suggest, uptrend is intact. That may have been just another higher low there on the weekly grind higher. Okay. So pretty interesting day here. I think we'll need to see what kind of follow through we get tomorrow. All right. And then we'll go from there. All right. Hope you did